Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stage Door Show. I'm Dave Hondel. Tonight, my guest is an actor, producer, and musician, among many other talents. His new project, a rom-com entitled Blue-Eyed Girl, was recently released, and he has many other new projects that are either out now or about to be soon, which we'll get into. So please welcome Dylan Flashner to the show. Thanks for doing this, Dylan. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Dave. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Well, we are too. And I mentioned that Blue-Eyed Girl is now out in a rom-com. I know you've done all kinds of, genres, but a lot of drama stuff. But the rom-com, that's something that I've talked to a lot of actors, and they really seem to really get into the rom-com, romantic comedy type. There's a lot of great ones out there. But what is it like being in a rom-com for yourself? And is that something you enjoy, that genre?
It's funny. I think it's kind of like the cliche that actors kind of my age and, kind of have a certain look do a rom-com. But, I enjoy the genre. It's easy watching. It's kind of one of those genres where you don't have to think too much, and you can kind of just enjoy the movie for what it is. And Blue-Eyed Girl, I think, does that. So it's a great experience with it.
One of the things that I noticed watching your work is you really get into your roles. And, and I was going to ask you about your process, because I also saw one interview you gave that it took you about a week to get back to yourself after a role because you were so into it. So talk about your process getting into, especially a dramatic role.
Yeah.
Where you have to really cut, because I know that there's a lot of actors have different ways to get into that. But how do you get into a role like that, a serious one that, that it really takes a lot out of you?
Yeah, no, it's one of those processes that I think I've been growing since I started in the business a little bit. I think character comprehension and scene comprehension is so important in getting deep into a character. So for me, that's my emphasis, is always just what can I know about this character and what can I know about the scene, and the rest I kind of let take care of itself that way. And the deeper the character, kind of the deeper you have to dive in. And that's something that I definitely want to establish as something I like to do. And so doing that definitely takes a lot of energy and a lot of time, but it's something I really enjoy.
Another thing that, I want to get into is backstory. Like when you have a difficult character that you have to play, do you ever create your own backstory of that person, how they became that way? Or how they, I guess, because everybody's got a redeeming quality for the most part. You want to think that anyway. Otherwise, it's got, for the audience to actually try to get something out of this character that's not all bad. There's something always made somebody the way they are. So do you ever create a backstory for yourself on these characters?
Absolutely is the answer to that question. We do create a backstory, but reuse context clues and stuff from the actual script. So we try not to create a story that's not believable or not, a part of the storyline a little bit. But yeah, I definitely create a backstory. Every single role I get, I have to think, what was this character's upbringing like, and what was the reason why they are where they are. And my acting coach, shout out Jim Clock. I think he's actually been on the show before, but
yeah, he was.
He established a really good foundation with me to always kind of dig deep and see what's not written. And that's definitely one of my goals always.
I was going to ask you too, when you talked about your acting coach, Jim, we have had him on the show, and I think a lot of actors out there, I think one of the main things that I get from interviewing actors is they always look fondly on their training. Like they always love going to acting class. They always love knowing and learning new, I guess, methods on how to bring characters to life and so forth. Do you find yourself to be the same, really looking forward to taking those acting classes? And I mean, there's some actors that have been out there for years that are still going to class. And is that something that you find to be important?
Yeah, I do find it to be very important. Now, I tend to have social anxiety and things like that. So I think when I first started, it was a little bit more daunting than it is now. I've luckily been able to work through that and get through it in my career. But Yeah, I look so forward to working with him and getting to dive into these characters. And it's always been a dream of mine to be in a situation like this where I can, have a full arc and um, have characters that are deeper than what's shown on the surface. So for me, I always look forward to acting class. I understand why people sometimes don't, but that's why you have to find the right people in your life and the right people that will steer you in the right direction, kind of thing. So, yeah, I enjoy it now, but I think early on in my career, it was a little daunting, to be honest.
You've also talked about having great support in your circle, for what you do, and one of the inspirations you've talked about was your father, being a big inspiration in your life and a support. Is there one thing your father has said to you during the years that really stuck out to you that kind of helped you in your journey in your career?
Yeah, my dad's a huge inspiration for me, and he's kind of my right hand man. So I talk to him every day, and one thing he's always kind of taught me is that the quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. And there's been a lot of points in my career where I think I could look back and say, "Hey, this might be a time to try something new," or um, get the ball rolling on something else. But um, I refuse to quit. I just refuse to take no for an answer. And um, yeah, he's really installed that in me. So I think it's the quitting thing for sure.
Yeah, and one of the things that I know you're an athlete as well. You played college athletics, which a lot of people don't even get to that level. So it's a pretty high level to be able to do that. And do you feel that competitive nature? Do you feel that sports kind of helps somebody and kind of away from the house get that discipline to kind of move forward and take the losses, because I think it's not always about the wins, but it's how you handle the losses
Yeah.
as well. And do you think that sports has kind of helped you handle not only the wins but also the losses?
Yeah, definitely. Playing college sports now, I was on the football team and basketball team at Chapman. I didn't play very much because I was just always injured. And um, you learn in those training room days that those are the important days.
Yeah.
The ones that people don't see and the ones that people don't hear about. Um, for me, sports shaped me into the person I am today. Uh, the teamwork aspect. And I know a lot of people that have had that sports experience will say the same thing. Um, and I think it's hugely important to get involved in something that teaches you the team aspect because this is really a team sport. So, yeah, it had a huge impact on me.
And also you've produced many projects as well. And one of the things I always like to talk to producers about is, putting together the entirety of a team. And I don't think people appreciate what producers do. I produce several
Oh,
things
that's crazy.
myself, and
Yeah.
even a music video, a 3-minute music video. I mean, it's people don't realize what goes into it. So talk about producing and at what point did you get involved with producing? Because I think it's a natural progression for an actor to get into producing because you kind of understand what happens on a set, but to actually produce, talk about that process because it's not an easy one.
No, it's really not, and I realize how difficult it is to rattle there, to herd cattle and kind of do that kind of thing. So, yeah, there's so many ways to produce nowadays. I think now that we're producing out full projects, it's even harder than it used to be.
Yeah.
I would come in and bow out on my check and be a fiscal partner and get a producing credit at first, and then I all of a sudden was getting line producers and getting, UPMs and people together to make the movie and then reproduced out full movies now. And it's one of those processes that I can't really explain until you've been in there and in the trenches. But basically, it's a lot of artists trying to do business. And that's that's kind of how I like to put it. It's a little bit of a cluster, but it's a lot of fun and it's a really rewarding process when you see that film at the end of it. So, um, I really enjoyed the producing side. I got involved really early on in my career because I was figuring if the on-screen thing doesn't work, maybe I have an off-screen job or something like that. But I produce out of, wanting to build my own content and wanting to get something out there that I believe in. And that's kind of the motive for me starting the production company itself. And I think we're getting to a point now where we're starting to greenlight things that we really enjoy. And it's just a really cool process.
And talk about being a producer. You're also putting together a team of professionals that, I mean, that could really make or break a project. I mean, if the sound isn't right, it could ruin a project. If the music isn't right, it can ruin a project. If the directing isn't right, it can ruin a project. 'Cause there's so many pieces of the puzzle. And for a project to really, from beginning to end, be something that people want to watch, it's got to be done just the right way. And especially now with the technology that we have, if it's not done the right way, it's so noticeable, even by the layman out there. So talk about the importance of that, and how do you find like the professionals that you've worked with? I mean, how do you find those people, and how do you keep them how do you latch onto them for your next project? That makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. What's funny is I think I take little bits and pieces from each one of my productions that I've been on, and we try to find the right people. I think anything in life is kind of the same. Is you are who you surround yourself around. And I really look towards people that work world class at what they do. I mean, they're, always working hard. They're giving their full effort. They're always engaged. So I look for different aspects in people, and I kind of bet on people a little bit. But yeah, I think it's so important to have people that really want something and really want a bigger goal than what's being put out there. And I look for dreamers because I was a dreamer myself. So, yeah, I think it's just meeting people, being on sets. I've had plenty of movies that have flopped. I've had plenty of movies that aren't going to be seen that much because of mistakes that have been made throughout the process. But luckily, we're in a position now where people are starting to see our projects and see our movies, and that takes time and effort. And if you're not willing to give the time and effort and try things out, you're not going to get there. So it's really trial and error.
Yeah, I could understand that. And also as an actor, sometimes you'll do a project and, from pre-production all the way to post-production, I mean, sometimes it could be months, if not over a year, sometimes even up to 2 years, depending on the project. And as an actor, when you do the project and you go on to the next thing, but you have the opportunity to watch that one thing that you did finally gets done, edited, and it goes onto the screen. What kind of what kind of feeling is that for you to sit in the theater or anywhere, a screening, and watch the work that you did, but have like the music put in, have like all the mastering done with the sound and the Foley put in and all these really cool things, to finally see the production, being born? That's got to be gratifying for you, any actor, to sit down and see not only your work, but also how the audience reacts.
Yeah, it's extremely gratifying. I think it's also a relief as well. Just to see that it got made well, and it's what we thought it was going to be on set. But yeah, it's an enriching process. We do these movies and then we kind of throw it away for a year or two and hope for the best. And a lot of it's out of your hands at a certain point. So like, as a kind of control freak, it kind of freaks me out sometimes. But yeah, it's one of those things where usually you get immediate satisfaction after you finish something or something like that. Blue Eye Girl was 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Not many people would know that based off the movie itself. So it brings the world back around, and I think that's a really cool thing, is that we get to celebrate it down the road, and this delayed satisfaction is something I really enjoy. So yeah, it's pretty crazy seeing yourself blown up like that, but I enjoy it a lot.
Another thing I was going to ask you about, because I know you grew up in the Boston area, and I understand a smaller town, and and moving out to LA, I mean, just anybody, it doesn't matter what you're in, what industry you're in. Cause I moved to New York City from Florida. I went from Minneapolis to Florida to New York City. And to me, it's like, it doesn't matter like how old you are, where you are. It's a tough move. I mean, it really is. Cause you're leaving what's familiar to you and you're going somewhere that's you're not used to. And it's a completely different, way of life. So how was that for you, and how did you handle that moving to LA? Was it tough to get, I guess, acclimated at some point? And when did it finally start to really kind of sink in that this is my life now, this is where I live? And I mean, because it took me a long time.
Yeah, no, it's I think the first words I thought of was culture shock.
Yeah,
It's definitely moving from the East Coast to the West Coast, at least I can speak from that perspective. It was all different. I mean, kids sat outside for lunch during the winter months, and I was like, we barely go to school during the winter months because
yeah,
it was snowing
snow
so
day.
much. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, we had a snow day like every other day. Like it was, freedom at that point. So yeah, I don't know when it hit me exactly. I think I was probably about 18, 19 when I realized I'm more LA now than I used to be. But yeah, it's so different. The people are different. The attitude is different out here. But the opportunity is different as well. So it's got its positives, its negatives, and its middle ground. And I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I didn't move out with my family when I did. And there was no plan for me to do this. So for it to happen like this is it's really humbling, and I'm very grateful to be in a position where I can do something I love and um, you know, be able to do it at this rate. So it was good for me to have that growth period. But moving when you're in middle school to a high school across the country was definitely a little daunting for sure. So yeah, it's I'd take the Boston teams and the sports, and I'd move over here, but most everything else has kind of left me at this point. It's I'm not as good in the cold anymore. I don't say Pakikan Havidyad anymore. I don't do what I used to do, but I yeah, I really enjoy Los Angeles, and it's been so great to me. So I can't imagine living anywhere else.
so you played basketball in high school in California, correct? Was it Oak
Yep.
Park? So when you're running down the court with Max and Trevor and Brandon and JD, did you think that this is something, acting was going to be something in your future?
Just being completely honest and brutally honest with myself, I wasn't a very confident kid growing up. Um, I wasn't the outgoing sort of, class clown or anything like that. That was JD. Brandon Hill was really funny too. Jackson Hall was a very confident kid. Ron Lee, all these guys I played basketball with were just really confident. And I was not nearly as good at basketball as them. I wasn't the expected one again in the entertainment industry, but I take those years and I really am thankful for them.
Yeah.
They really shaped me into seeing different worlds and more listening than anything else. So I learned a lot from that, and I think that's what turned me into an entertainer after a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, what kind of advice would you have? Because I know you've given advice on different interviews that you've done, but what kind of main advice would you have somebody kind of in the high school, before getting into this type of, because we have a lot of
Yeah.
high school, college age kids that listen to the show that are artists, and they always appreciate the advice that we get from our actors that we
Yeah.
have on the show. So what's your main piece of advice for somebody like that?
Yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice is it's never over.
Yeah.
We're always growing, and some of the worst advice that I ever received was that you're born confident, and I don't believe that at all. I think that's gained through experience. I think that's gained through successes and other things. And when I mean success, I mean even small things. Making your bed in the morning. Like
Yeah.
little things like that will create confidence for you. So, um, to the kids watching that don't feel like they can do this kind of thing, um, just wait, give it a second. Not everyone that is supposed to be doing something ends up doing it in the long run. And um, it's back to the don't quit. It's important to really go for something. And, even when you don't believe in yourself, go for it. See how it goes, kind of thing.
Yeah. No, that's good advice. And that's something that, I like to hear. Don't quit, because you never know. They could be this close to their, to the yes that they're going to get, and then next audition. And if they quit, they'll never realize it. So I think you're right. Just, don't quit. So that's great advice. So some of the new stuff that you have coming up, you have a couple of things in post-production, I think right now, The Florist and Sacred Evil. But something just got completed called The Cure. Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, definitely can talk about The Cure. So, basically, the premise of the movie is there's this girl who has an uncurable disease, and they're trying to figure out how to cure the disease. I play the doctor of her, and we're trying to solve this mystery throughout. It was really fun to film. It had a lot of great young actors as well in it. Tyler Lawrence Gray and Sydney Taylor, really talented people. So it should be a really fun watch when it comes out. I had a lot of fun filming it. It was a lot of big jumbly words, so pardon me if I sound like I'm mumbling when I'm in the movie. But yeah, it was really fun. My dad's a doctor, so I
Okay.
kind of make fun of him now that I'm a doctor as well. So um,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was a fun role. So I'm really excited for that.
I also want to let everybody know, my listeners, that to go check out your music. Bad Habits. I listened to Bad Habits, your song, which I know was a few years ago, but I absolutely loved your music. You're a very, very talented musician, singer, and I loved your music video. So everybody go check out Bad Habits on YouTube. Check out his music. Dylan Flashner. Check him out. Just search it on YouTube and you'll see it. So I just wanted to give you a shout out on your music. It's just really well done.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it was a while ago, but I really enjoyed the process.
And my last question for you, Dylan, is when it's all said and done, what do you want your legacy to be? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind to your fans and your family, your friends? At the end of it all, what do you want to leave behind?
Yeah, I think about this a lot. For me, it's just I gave 110% every time I'm out there. You can see the effort level, you can see how much I give, and I want to help other actors that are talented but struggling, and hopefully create opportunity that way too. So creating opportunity and 110% effort level is definitely how I want to leave the legacy.
Well, thank you. I mean, you're a great guy, just a really talented actor, producer, singer, everything. I just really want to thank you for the honor of your time tonight, and looking forward to your future work.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time, Dave. Thanks for having me on. It means a lot.
Absolutely, to me too. So thank you, Dylan. Have a great night.
Okay, take care.